Welcome to another edition of Quarantine Kitchen. My name is Jenna McCarthy. I am a nutrition educator for Alpine and Mono counties. I hope you are all doing well. Today we are going to make corn and zucchini pancakes. And I will say this is one I tested out ahead of time. I made it a couple days ago and it is hubby approved. I think he told me 3 times how delicious it was. He kept asking, there are a lot of vegetables in this. Like, apparently it tasted so good. He just had to make sure that it was good for him. So I kept reassuring him, yes, this is mostly zucchini and corn. So I hope you're excited for a tasty, nutritious side dish or main dish, depending on how you decide to top this. Okay, so what you're going to need, this is going to serve 4 people. That's the ratio I'm going to use today. So to serve 4, which makes like 8 pancakes, you're going to need 2 zucchini, and you're going to shred those and drain those. So I've already done that step. If you're looking for some tips on how to shred your zucchini, okay, I'm sure you can Google it or check out my recipe for zucchini muffins. I use a box grater on this. But you want it to drain for at least 10 minutes, so I did that step ahead of time. You're going to need 1 cup of frozen corn, which I forgot about, so let me grab that. Here. I thought I was prepared. I'm not perfect. All right, so 1 cup of corn, you're going to need 2 eggs, 2/3 cup of whole wheat flour, which is what the recipe calls for. I'm using almond flour because I'm gluten-free. So almond flour is a good replacement for this. It has a little more calories than the whole wheat flour, but is also higher in protein. So use what you have on hand, but try to get that protein count up. You need 1/6 of a teaspoon of salt, so a very minimal amount. Please make sure you measure so you don't overdo the sodium. 1/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 scallions, which I have chopped here. Can't see that very well. And a tablespoon of any type of oil. I'm using grapeseed oil today. It's pretty neutral and it's good for cooking at higher temperatures since we're going to fry this on the stovetop. So I have already measured my dry ingredients. So again, the salt, the baking powder, the flour. I'm going to whisk that together. And again, I usually like to do my dry ingredients first, just because then if I'm using utensils for this, I can more easily use this than when it comes to whisking my eggs, versus if I did the wet ingredients first, then I would have to go and wash this off, especially with the egg, before using it on the dry ingredients. So, oh, I should also say I just saw my pepper. So you have a lot of different options for topping this. One of the suggestions is salsa. I don't have salsa, and unless it's a fresh salsa, I don't really use it very much anyway. But I did think for me, like the scallions are really good in this. I think you could, if you want to use more onions, I think that would be really good. But I like a pepper to give it a little bit of heat too. So the corn is going to be sweet. You get a little bit of contrast to that with the onion. But my husband and I really like peppers. And I will say, the other night, I'm going to cut this as I talk. The other night, I wanted to use a jalapeno and I had one. So first of all, I'm gonna pause my story to talk about this pepper. So first things first, if you're using a pepper, cut the top off. I saw this tip earlier today that I'm gonna try. Never tried it before, so you're gonna be part of this experiment with me. But it says if you don't want the seeds, which I don't want for this, it said you can just kind of roll this like between your hands and the seeds will fall out before you cut it, instead of cutting them out. So I don't know, we'll see how well that worked once I cut this open. If you keep the seeds in, it's going to be hotter. I'm not sure how hot this Anaheim is going to be. So the other night I used a jalapeno, and I was a little worried about the heat level. My husband can take more heat than I can. So since I was cooking for both of us, I didn't want to use the whole thing. So I used half of it. And honestly, it wasn't spicy enough for my preference either. So I wanted to use the Fresno today. That worked pretty well. I have two little seeds that are left hanging onto this membrane. I'm just going to cut that membrane out because that's going to be kind of hot too, spicy. Okay. So what I'm going to do, again, if you're new to cutting, if you're working on your knife skills, you want that claw hand, so you protect those fingertips. Okay. So I wanted more heat today, and I was looking through the fridge last night for this, and we had a Fresno pepper, and I was pretty excited about that, but the husband vetoed it, and he said, nope, I'm saving that for something this weekend. So I had the Anaheims, which Anaheims they tend to be milder than the jalapeno, but they do vary a lot too. So it can be either milder or maybe as hot as the jalapeno. So I'm going to use the whole thing, and I think that will be fine for my taste preference, but I'll let you know if it's more of a kick than I was hoping for. So my husband and I have been married for, I had to do the math, 14 years. And when we first got married, there's no way you would get me to eat peppers or many spices in general. But he has slowly introduced them to me. So maybe if you have some picky eaters at home, I can be an inspiration to them. I wasn't a good vegetable eater growing up. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of spicy things. I didn't do a lot of cuisine. I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, and into my mid-20s, I would probably say I'm a meat and potatoes girl. That was my idea of, that was like the extent of my vegetables pretty much, was potatoes and corn. So we get one of those today. And I still very much like meat and potatoes, and love going back to Iowa and eating my mom's cooking, and sometimes making those recipes here and thinking about home. But I'm also willing to try a lot more things. So small doses, repetition. They say sometimes new foods take like 20 times to eat before, like to taste, before we get adapted to them. So, repetition, don't give up. If you're someone who's picky, please don't be afraid to try new things. All right, so this is about minced. Okay, I'm trying to do this really fine. I don't want big chunks of the pepper. And again, we're just using that rocking motion and making sure above all else we protect this hand. Okay, so now I should have all of these ingredients ready, so I'm going to combine them. So again, I'm going to use 2 eggs, hard cut. Sometimes I crack them on the counter, and I think that works better, but I've also seen the tip to just do it really hard on the side of a bowl. I have good luck with both of them, so do as you see fit. So I have my 2 eggs and my whisk. So this is what I was saying, why I do the dry ingredients first. Now I can use this whisk without having to wash it before I use it. Okay, so here's this. Those probably need a little bit more time. So I'm going to carefully avoid putting the seeds in here, but I'm going to scrape the scallions and the pepper in. And you can use a scraper if you have one. But again, I just don't like to dirty a lot of dishes, so I use what's already dirty. Get this out of my way. So with the zucchini, you can see this has been sitting a little bit, and I just have a tiny amount of juice. So you definitely want to squeeze this, even though it's been draining, you want to kind of put some pressure on it to really get that liquid out. Zucchini has a high water content. So again, if you've seen the zucchini muffins recipe, and if you haven't, you should, because they're really tasty. Okay. But if you've seen that recipe, you'll know I talk about the water content. And so it makes for good moist baking, but you don't want too much of that, especially here where we're going to fry it, because otherwise the pancakes aren't really going to stay together and they're not going to get crisp. They're just going to be kind of watery, and we don't want that. So I'm not only pushing them, I am squeezing them by the handful. Okay, so don't be afraid to get your hands in there and get dirty. You can rinse them off when you're done with this step. For me, this is really fun. It kind of reminds me of making meatballs or meatloaf when I was growing up. I used to love just putting my hands in that and just getting everything between my fingers. Fun thing for kids to do in the kitchen too. This is a way that they could help if you're looking to get them involved. All right, so I'm going to hope that I've gotten enough moisture out of this. I think I've kind of done a twice over of all of this. And I don't seem to be getting too much left. So I'm going to add this. And I need to measure my corn. Do not let me forget about my corn. I want all this zucchini. One reason I really like this dish is because of all the color. So let me rinse my hand off here. All right, so a cup of corn. Ish. It's almost gone. I need to put that on the grocery list. All right, so we're going to stir this and mix all the wet ingredients. I do try when I'm cooking, kind of during the cleanup period, I try to be good and start a grocery list. So whatever I see I'm low on, almond flour, the corn, whatever I'm low on, I try to put that on the list so I don't forget, especially with ingredients that might not be a staple in my house. So, all right, so this is pretty well combined. I don't see any chunks of egg at the bottom. It's worked pretty well through. So now we can add our dry ingredients, that flour mixture. I keep referring to my directions to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. All right, and you want this really well combined so that your zucchini and corn pancakes don't have any large chunks of anything, and that it binds well together. So the egg and the flour, it's going to help you bind. The baking powder is going to help it set a little bit better. So again, that's why it's a good idea to whisk the dry ingredients first so that that baking powder is well spread out between your among the dry ingredients, and then again, just a good stir here. All right, so what we need to do now is get our oil hot. So if you are using a non-stick pan, you want to put the oil in your pan. This calls for a tablespoon. The other day I didn't think it needed that much, probably because I'm using a smaller pan. You just want to coat the bottom. So if you're using the non-stick pan, put the oil in, then turn your skillet on and get that oil hot. Otherwise, you can get your skillet hot and then add the oil. So I'm going to do that, and again, I'm not going to need quite a tablespoon, just enough to coat the bottom. So I'm going to turn this on medium. I think this is probably going to say more like a medium high. I will say, it actually does say medium. If you have a stove like mine, I feel like it's high and really high, so my medium is more like at the low point. But something that's going to get some nice color. So what you're going to need now is about a quarter cup measuring spoon makes a good sized pancake. So I'm actually going to pause you in a second because I'm using my computer to film this, so I can't just handily take you over to my stove. But once you get your quarter cup, right, you're just going to put this into the hot oil and kind of flatten it very carefully, okay? So you can use a spoon or something just to make sure your hands are safe, and I will show you what this looks like in a second once I get my oil flask. All right, so here you can see I have my oil in the pan, and I put about 3 in this size. You do not want to crowd them too much. Okay, you want them each to have their own little space, otherwise your pan's going to get cool anyway. Kind of like if you take it off the heat in the middle of its cooking. I'm going to set my timer. So once these are going, you need about 5 minutes on each side. So 5 minutes on that first side, let that bottom get brown, let that start cooking up, then go ahead and flip it and cook about 5 more minutes on the other side. One tip, some people will say like, well, how do I know when my oil's hot? Okay, if you kind of flip the pan, it should run really easily, otherwise it's not hot enough. You can also flick some water in there and it should sizzle, okay? While that goes on that side, I'm going to get my toppings ready. So again, you have a lot of options. Salsa is one option. Any sort of herbs you would want on that. And then it says like a plain low-fat yogurt, which sounds the best to me. I did not have that the other night. I do have it today. But I didn't have that the other night, and so the hubby suggested cottage cheese as an alternate, and that was really good. Either one of those are going to be pretty high calcium, high protein options. So I do have yogurt today, which makes me really excited. And I should have gotten this out ahead of time, but that's okay. You can see me working my kitchen as though I were actually cooking a meal for my family, which maybe the hubby will be home in time to enjoy this with me, because I'm not going to eat by myself, no matter how good they are. Okay. So what I'm going to suggest, tell me nuts, is I like a little lemon in my yogurt. I like a little bright, a little citrus, so I'm just going to take a big spoonful, maybe a third of a cup, but again, this is to your preference. So this is what I mean in the beginning when I say, you know, it could be a side dish or it could be a meal, depending on what you're putting on top of it. So to give you an idea, let me see, I have the nutrition facts here. So 1 serving, so 2 of those pancakes, 2 little quarter cup pancakes, is 150 calories, 5 grams of fat, 4 grams of fiber, and 7 grams of protein. So that makes a great side dish, a great vegetable option. Or if you start topping it with the yogurt, cottage cheese, okay, that's going to add some protein, obviously. So it might be more of a meal that way. Or you could just serve them on the side of, you know, your protein and green option with whatever else you're cooking. So I'm going to, I did get out my lemon ahead of time. I'm just going to add a little bit. I just saw I had a bunch of, oh, there's my doorbell. My dogs are probably going to freak out. Had a lot of peppers on the side of my knife that I should have checked for earlier. That makes me sad. They didn't make it in there, but I will add them to the rest of that. I wish you were here to remind me. Sorry, the dogs are going to freak out at the doorbell. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lemon into this. And actually, my piece of lemon is probably not big enough for this guy to be effective, so no seeds. I like a lot of lemon. I don't apologize for that. And let me get Trajan. It's probably okay, bud. I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. Trajan is my protector dog. Ceres has decided she's more interested in what's happening in the kitchen. That's more my speed. But Trajan will protect me from whoever might be at the door or riding their bikes by the house. all dangerous to him. All right, so now I have a nice little yogurt sauce, and I'm also going to chop some herbs, which a little yogurt on that. Yeah, that kick of that citrus in there. Yeah. Again, when you cook for yourself, you're more than welcome to lick your fingers. So I actually have some basil left from the other night. Some of it's still good. I think chives would be really good on this too. You can see me, but when you cut your basil to do a little chiffonade, fancy word, chiffonade, you can actually do a lot at one time by kind of stacking them on each other. Trying to get it so you can see a little better. And then rolling that stack lengthwise. And that's going to tell me that I need to flip it, so I will in a second. And then just cutting from top to bottom. So you're cutting multiple at one time, so you get nice little strips. You can't really see because you're a little bit far away, but that's a chiffonade. We try. All right, I'm going to pause you so I can flip those, cook them 5 more minutes, and then we'll top them together. All right, how'd you do? I made all my latkes. Corn and zucchini pancakes, zucchini and corn pancakes. They're latkes, let's be honest, a little more nutritious version of a latke. I like mine a little brown, as you can see. I like them to be crispy. I was going to say, though, something I should have told you. I hope in that time you washed your hands, because I guess if you're adding the pepper like me, so anytime you cut the pepper, you want to wash your hands before you start touching yourself and burning yourself. I also tried to tidy up a little bit. I hope you did that too. Kids helping at home, did you help clean up? Cooking makes a mess sometimes, so it's part of the process, but well worth it, I think. So I have my pile of pancakes, latkes. And actually it said it would make 8. Today it made 9 and a half. Look at this cute little guy. I wasn't going to let him go to waste. That's what I'm going to eat now in front of you. So I think it's just because the zucchini I had today were a little bigger, and maybe because I added that pepper. So just a note on that. It says it would make 8, but I think the other day it made like 8 and a half. And today I have 9 and a half. So just a guesstimate. Again, so I have my yogurt topping with a little lemon, a little salt, pepper, and then I have my basil. Let's see if I can show you a chiffonade. See, nice, long, and skinny. And I love basil. It's like sweet and, I don't know, like licoricey, anise. It's delectable. Sometimes I try to name my favorite herb. That kind of depends on what I'm eating, but it'd probably be basil or cilantro. Yummy. All right. So, what do we have here? I just made a mess on my plate, that's for sure. Yeah, that lemon and the yogurt cuts through, but the pepper that I add in there, it's not too hot. So I think the Anaheim did have some kick, more like a jalapeno, but it's still okay for me. So again, you can decide for yourself if you want to add anything else. But for me, it really balances that sweet of that corn. I'm going to take another bite, and I think it's so pretty. Green, yellow colors for the spring. I'm going to try not to eat all of these before dinner. I plan on making some trout, so I think this is going to be a good side dish for that. And I'm also going to try not to eat them all because I know my husband's going to want some. So try these. Let me know what you think. I always love to get your feedback. Or if you have any questions, you can also put them in the comments or email me at jmccarthycss@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. Hope you have a good day.